Welcome to our third episode of Small Screen Cinema with Tabitha and Dad. She is Tabitha, which makes me Dad. Yeah, I'm not just her dad. I've got a lot of kids. I have 38, 39 last count. I can't remember them all.
So many.
Yeah, I only acknowledge five of them though.
I'm
Yeah,
so lucky.
yeah, you are. You are. I mean, you're the 17th born. Wow. Oh, we are going to do the TV movie The Death of Richie. And as you can see already, it's not going to be a comedy. Let me give you some background on this. The Death of Richie aired on NBC January 10th, 1977. You can find this on YouTube, and there's about three or four different people that have put the full movie up on YouTube. So just put in The Death of Richie, and you are going to find it. It is based on a true story of the Thomas Thompson book, Richie, The Ultimate Tragedy Between One Decent Man and the Son He Loved, and that was written and published in 1973. Before writing true story books, Thompson was a prolific writer for Life magazine, and I don't even think Life magazine's around anymore. The teleplay was by John McGreevy, and he started writing for TV shows in the early 50s, like the dawn of TV. Some of the things he did was Lassie. He did 35 episodes of My Three Sons, 22 episodes of Family Affair. So he had a quite long career. He was born in 1922 and passed away in 2010. Lived to be way too old, or I don't know.
Wow.
He did make a lot of TV movies. His most famous are Flight 90, Disaster in the Potomac, and Unabomber, The True Story. So he was still writing teleplays in the 90s when the Unabomber came out. It was directed by Paul Wendkos, who was born in 1925 and passed away in 2009. And some of his more famous efforts are The Legend of Lizzie Borden, which will probably be done on this show. The Mephisto Waltz, which was a kind of a gothic horror themed movie of the early 70s with Alan Alda. Blood Vows and the story, Blood Vows, the story of a mafia wife, because we don't have enough stories about their wives.
No.
No,
One
not,
thing.
yes.
Paul Wenkos, yeah, is a name I've run into a lot. He also directed the movie Cannon for Cordoba, which starred Pete Duell. I just want to throw that out there,
Okay.
which you
Okay.
can watch on Amazon for free.
All right. Amazon isn't free. You have to pay.
If you already have a Prime account, then you can watch it with no additional fees. How's that?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Mhm.
Okay. The cast for The Death of Richie, Robby Benson plays the title character Richie. Robby Benson was born in 1956, and I am just so sad that Tabitha never heard of this guy because he was from the 1970s till the mid 80s. He was everywhere, movies, TV shows. What a guy. Um, his wife, very interesting, is Carla DeVito. If you are a connoisseur of meatloaf and have seen the video Paradise by the Dashboard Light, she is the one in the video. She is not the one who sang on the album, but she was the one on the video because the lady who sang on the album, Florissant's own Elaine Foley, she could not do the tour. So Carla DeVito stepped in. Robby Benson is known for such movies as Lucky Lady, Ode to Billy Joe, One on One, Ice Castles, The End, and most famously, the voice of the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
I know Beauty and the Beast.
You should, because I took you to that when you were like this tall. So should remember that. Um, he did a lot of directing, a lot of TV shows. He directed a lot of episodes of Evening Shade, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Friends, just to name a few things. And I'm sure Tabitha has heard of all of them. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
His father is George Warner in the movie, and it is played by Ben Gazzara. Ben, he was born in 1930, and he was with us until 2012, and he's a fantastic character actor. Uh, probably best known for the 70s flop Capone, which he was a starring role for him, and he's just not the kind to really carry a movie, and that
Mm.
really flopped. But he's in two of my favorite movies, Roadhouse, where he's the villainous rich guy who owns the town. And I know we're not supposed to like Roadhouse, but it's like crack. Every time it's on, I have to do it. It's
Don't,
Roadhouse.
don't let anyone make you feel bad for liking Roadhouse.
Oh, it's so bad it's good. And
Yes.
like the when the polar bear fell on me. How weird. Just a strange movie. I don't think I could decide if it wanted to be a comedy or not. Yeah, they tried to do some comedic things. It just wasn't funny. But anyway, Ben Gazzara was fantastic in that. But my favorite role is when he plays um, oh gosh, the porn uh, direct or the porn producer in The Big Lebowski. Jackie Treehorn, that was his name. And it's a very small role, but I will forever remember when he's on the phone and the Big Lebowski or the dude is sitting on the couch and he's watching him, thinking he's taking notes on the phone. And then when Ben Gazzara's character, Jackie Treehorn, leaves, he does that thing where he rubs it with a pencil to see what the words are. And all he did was drew a penis. It's great. Oh, the mother is played by Eileen Brennan, Carol Warner, and she was with us from 1932 to 2013. And she is known for The Last Picture Show, and she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her role in Private Benjamin. And the little brother is Lance Kerwin,
I
and
recognized him
he,
immediately.
he will be in other movies, made for TV movies. One of my favorite is James the 15, which I will do in a few weeks here. And the time I almost got beat because of Lance Kerwin in that TV show. But he passed away in 2023 at the age of 63, and his big movies were Outbreak, Enemy Mine, and Salem's Lot, which is probably where Tabitha knows him from.
Yes.
Yes.
See, that's fine. There's only two actors in that movie. Was he the little alien?
What's that?
Was he the little alien that Lou Gossett Jr. gives birth to?
Yeah, I think so.
See, I did not know that.
So, and like I said, it was on NBC. NBC. I cannot speak tonight. NBC, January 10th, 1977, and it was up against Circus of the Stars on CBS, and that was always a tough. You're a kid, you have to watch Circus of the Stars. You have to watch like I don't know, John Travolta dive into a tank of sharks. It's a circus with stars. You know,
I guess so.
yeah. And on ABC, it went up against The Man with the Golden Gun, the James Bond movie. So that's a big movie to go up against. So it probably hurt the ratings a little bit. But I remember that this was kind of a well hyped show that was going to be on. So I did not see how it did in the ratings, but I'm assuming it would have pulled better if not up against the Circus of the Stars. So, shall we get into the movie, Tabitha?
Then let's do it.
Okay, we have the opening scene at the cemetery, and it pans up and out, and you see the burial scene and the graveside service. And I want to ask you, as someone who shoots movies, because I immediately went to this, how did they do those overhead scenes before drones? Because they're so common now because of drones. But in the days before drones, how did they do that?
Cranes. You rent a
Crane?
crane. Yeah.
It seems so. You have to get a whole freaking crane out to do that. Now you just slip a $90 drone in the air and you're good with it. So,
Yep.
um, so you see George, Carol, mom and dad, and Russell, the little brother, at the graveside. And then it goes immediately to a scene where you have teens driving fast, obviously under the influence in a car. And Richie's there with his friends and they're smoking weed and they get pulled over. And his friend Brick is driving. So Brick gets out and he talks to the cop. The cop knows Brick by name because he has a reputation, kind of like Tabitha. He has a reputation with the police. So the cop looks into the car and Richie says hello to the cop because what else are you going to do? And the officer lets them off, and I don't know why. It's like, yes, go drive more under the influence. I'm going to let you go. Did you find that odd?
No, I
No.
found that cop. I found that cop to be lazy. There is a I don't remember I don't remember the young woman's name, but I saw on one of my true crime shows a story about a young woman who went missing years and years. No one knew what happened to her. Well, through surveillance, they found out she was driving under the influence. A cop pulled her over, let her go. I guess either thinking he was cutting her a break or he just didn't want to do the paperwork. And she drove her car into a lake and drowned there, and no one knew she was there for years. So,
Wow.
no, it happens.
Okay, well, I just found it odd that the odds that the cop said, oh, I mean, they were obviously very impaired,
Right.
dangerously driving. Just go ahead and go, I'm going to let you off with a warning here. Get sober real quick and drive home, I guess.
Right.
So, Richie coming home late after curfew, obviously, he sneaks into the house and dad goes into his room. So George goes into his room and dad, mom tells him, Carol tells dad before he goes into the room, kind of be easy on him. So dad is kind of going easy on him and he says that they should go to the mountains this weekend with Russell and do something. And then they have a little bit of dialogue and dad's telling him that, he has potential. He can go to college, and dad wasn't able to go to college. And his dad was poor, so he couldn't afford to go to college. So he joined the Marines out of high school and went to war. And then dad tells him he will help him with college, but it wouldn't hurt Richie if he got a job to help. What did you think about your initial impressions of George and his interaction with Richie?
Initially, based on this scene, I thought he seemed like a good dad, you know? He didn't approach him in anger. He's telling him, I'll help you. You've got all this potential. He seemed like a good father in this moment to me.
He did. He did. I thought, oh, very good. So dad emotionally tells Richie he can do whatever he wants if he stays away from those friends, in particular Brick, who obviously has a history with the police and is a bad dude. So Richie defends his friends like teenagers always do. Oh, my friends are great. Nothing's wrong with them. And it breaks down into a fight. And dad says, my house, my rules, which Tabitha heard all the time from me. Richie screams at his dad to leave him alone and to get out of his room. Now, what if you would have yelled that to your mother?
I never would have yelled that to my mom.
Well, what if you would have yelled it to me? I would have just said, okay, I'll get out of
Oh, I'm sorry. My mom would have ripped my bedroom door off its hinges with her bare hands and say, there, now I can always see what's going on in here.
here. Oh, so
What
George
about
goes
you?
back.
Would you have said that to your mom?
I could get very contentious with my mom
Oh,
because, yeah, she was 4'8". I mean, I'll tell you a story. I'm 16 years old, and I've been this tall since about middle school. I'm 5'9" now, but I was 5'10" before age started shrinking me. So
sure
I
you were.
had mom by 14 inches at this point, and she's yakking me about something, and I pointed my finger and I told her, and I turned around to strut off, and all of a sudden I felt a foot up my butt. My mom, all 4'8" of her, 50 some odd years old, hiked that little leg into my butt. Oh, maybe she's tougher than I give her credit for. So, oh, but anyway, dad goes back to the bedroom with Carol and they bicker for a while about Richie. And it comes out that they've been fighting. Dad and Richie have been clashing for about 2 years. And dad says that Richie hates him and he needs to do something about it. Okay. He threatens to take Richie to court and file a wayward conduct petition where the juvenile authorities will monitor Richie. And mom says that that is actually just giving up on Richie. Dad yells, "I've made up my mind. I have the penis, so I win." And it's 1977. Okay, do you think Dad's being extreme about this order? What's it called? Wayward conduct petition. Do you think that he's being too extreme?
Well, if it's been going on for 2 years, maybe not. But from what we find out about him later, I think he's going about it the wrong way. Yes.
I think he's frustrated. The movie, the book has to pick up before this. I mean, this is 2 years into Richie's problems. So I'm sure the book picks up long before this. But if you got 2 years of this, I see a dad who's at his wit's end. I don't know what to do with him. I've tried to be nice. I've tried to be nice. And he was
Yeah.
just trying to be nice to him. And it's not working out. So I see a very frustrated parent at this point.
Yes. I agree.
So Richie goes into his room, and in his closet, he takes out a shelf, and he has the most 70s badass private room hidden in his closet where he's got music, he's got black light poster, he's got black lights, he's got strobe lights. And I'm thinking, boy, that is every kid's dream in the 70s to have a hideout away from their parents. That is so cool. So,
Yeah, there's
anyway,
a on Gilmore Girls, you remember Rory's friend Lane? I don't know if you remember
yeah,
her.
yeah.
Okay, so when she was the early seasons when she was in high school, she had a very modest conservative room because her mother was highly religious. But then you go into her closet and she's got her secret, all decked out early 2000s cool teenage girl room. So it very much reminded me of that.
I wonder if they got inspiration from this.
Could be.
Could be. So, the next scene, Dad goes to file the wayward conduct petition. He's tried to be talked out of it, uh, but George is insistent. The judge actually is trying to talk a little bit. You know, you sure you want to do this? But he's insistent. The official agrees, but tells George that they need drug counseling and they need it to help the situation. But Dad doesn't believe in group therapy. And I think that's Dad's fatal flaw here, Richie's fatal.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. He is so against therapy this whole movie,
yeah,
you know?
it's like when he was a kid, maybe he was tied up and forced to watch therapy or something. I don't know, but he's, no, 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 not
Well,
the
it's
TH word.
I mean, I'm sure you know more than I do, but from what I understand, I mean, I guess to an extent it still is. It's more common now, but therapy was something highly stigmatized. Like, what are you crazy? You have to go to therapy? What's with you? And also maybe him being a guy is like, I don't solve my problems by talking about my feelings. That's not the
Yeah,
way that men solve problems.
yeah, exactly. He's a product of his time, I guess you could say.
Very much so, yeah.
So in the next scene, Richie and his friends are in an arcade, and Richie tells his friends that the dad files this report and asks, "Does anybody know anything about it?" And what Brick tells him is that he is buying him a one-way ticket to the juvenile shelter. So the friends tell him that he is basically screwed, and the authorities will be watching him like a hawk. And they tell him, the drug abuse counselor, when you go there, it's a haven to buy drugs. That all the druggies go there, I guess. So you can buy all the weed you want, because all the druggies are there trying to placate their parents. So the next scene, Dad is at a shooting range, and we find out
Hold on,
that
hold
Dad.
on, hold on. One of the kids says a line in that scene, which made me laugh because it's 1977. He says, everybody's hooked into a computer these days. Did you catch
I
that line?
didn't even realize it.
Yeah, I'm like, sir, you have no idea.
That was a calculator. um, So Dad's at the shooting range, and we find out at the shooting range that Dad is a great shot, and but we also find out that Dad George is against killing living things, so he much prefers to shoot paper, which is I think great. So the next thing we're at the dinner table, and Richie brings up the petition, and George tell him that he filed it to help you, Richie. I've done this to help you. And the parents tell him of a new burger joint that might be hiring. And Richie's he doesn't have any self confidence. And they talk him into, okay, go try to see if you can get it done with you. So they agree to look into it. And then mom brings up the drug council, and Richie protests, and George takes Richie's side because men don't talk about their feelings in 1977. So next, George takes Richie to the burger joint to apply for the job, and he gets the job. And George and Richie are both excited. And I like that every now and then there are these little scenes where they're in complete agreement and excited together. That only happens one other time that we'll get to a little bit, but it's a very heavy movie, and these moments of positivity is needed to be sprinkled in this. Otherwise, it'd just be completely depressing. Like it's not depressing anyway. So we go back to court, and George and Carol have decided they're going to withdraw the petition based upon Richie getting a job and his attitude changing a bit. So the judge reluctantly accepts the withdrawal. And she says, "You really need to go to counseling." George, counseling. It's 1977. No one goes to counseling. So Richie's at work. The next scene, he's at work, and all of his loser friends show up, and they say we're hooked up with some downers, and Richie declines the offer. And then Carol shows up and sees Richie's friends there, and she sees his friends leave, and she just has a look of disgust on her face. And end of scene. End of scene.
Yeah.
Next,
I
go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I
No.
was just gonna say, yeah, peer pressure is not something I was ever subjected to. I thought it was gonna be a much bigger deal, but the bad kids didn't want to hang out with me. So
Mm.
very sad.
When I was growing up, because I grew up in this era, I was offered as a kid pot probably two or three times. Um, Once, me and my friend John, we were at the Roxana South Roxana homecoming, and they had this tent where you could watch this film on the history of rock and roll. And I thought, oh, that's cool. So me and John, we're like 10, 11 years old. We're sitting there, and this group of teenagers sit behind us, and they just casually said, "Hey, you want to smoke a joint with us?" We said, "No, thank you." That was before Nancy Reagan told us just say no. We were nice. No, thank you. So they passed a joint around, and me and John, you know. So, and then when I would go skating at skating rink in Bethalto, you went to the bathroom, and they were gambling, they were pitching pennies, they were smoking weed. It was, my mom forbade us to go to the bathroom, so I just peed on
Wow,
the
there was
ring.
there was
So
nothing going on in the bathroom at our skating rink in the 90s.
yeah, it was different in the 70s. It really was.
Yeah,
Um,
I was such a square. I
was
didn't You're right. I am such a square. I didn't try pot until I was out of college. I didn't drink until I was out of college. So, yeah,
That's
pretty sad.
amazes me because your mom partied all the time. I just
Oh, I know. I know. I mean, she would wander in at like 3 in the morning. I'm like, Mom. She's like, get off my back, okay?
on my back, your mom. So,
Who's someone
so
else? My daughter.
so Carol goes to the counseling group, and she runs into an acquaintance, Betty, and Betty's son Dominic. Dominic, we find out, was busted, and instead of being incarcerated, he agreed to go to the counseling meetings. So Carol goes to the meetings with Dominic, And during one of the meetings, during this meeting, a rando dad monologues to the group about this meeting that he's obviously forced to go to because his kid has done some drugs. And dad says, all kids do drugs and sell drugs as if it's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh
Missed
yeah,
out on
I
that.
wrote down this dad is an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah. So this rando mom at the meeting says that this guy is full of it. Her daughter is in a coma due to overdose. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, he's being very dismissive. Oh, it's no big deal. And she's saying, it is a pretty big deal because I have a daughter that's in a coma due to uh, an overdose. So there's the two extremes right there at that meeting.
Yeah, this is the PSA portion of the film that they would have shown us while we were doing our dare stuff.
Exactly, exactly. So uh, Dominic's mom Betty is grilled by the group over whether her husband is a good father or not. Um, and we start to find out about her and her husband's relationship. One lady accuses Betty's husband of deserting Dominic by taking a night shift at work when he didn't have to. And I think that was probably spot on. I've never met the guy. He's probably a jerk and he's probably dead now. But anyway, we find out that the parents
Probably
are.
not real, too.
I hadn't thought about that. It is just a movie. Uh, we find out that Betty and her husband are having issues, but she insists that it has nothing to do with Dominic's issues. So an argument ensues in the group, and she is told that they need to communicate even if they fight. You know, you and your husband, you need to start communicating even if it's a fight. So Betty breaks down in tears over her crumbling family. End of scene.
Yeah, and I was kind of curious. I thought in the 70s was it still fairly common for the dad to just go to work and come home and not pay much attention to the kids? Is that the mom's job to pay attention to the kids?
See, being I was raised single family with just my mom, I didn't have that experience. And when I was around my dad, he definitely was not misogynistic. One of my earliest memories of my dad was um, him wearing an apron and doing the dishes.
Mm.
And my dad always cooked. So I just did not see that level of misogyny. Now, I did have friends who had dads who were very misogynistic, but they were both married to women who were pretty opinionated. So um, they got pushback whenever they would pull the, you know, testosterone card, I guess, I was
Yeah,
born a man, so I'm naturally superior.
yeah.
So I'm sure that that level of misogyny was going on in a lot of households, but I just didn't see it
Mm-hmm.
much.
Because I actually thought it was nice that they were getting that pushback. They're like, the dad needs to stop ignoring his son and spend time with him. I'm like, oh, you're correct, 1970s. That is something dads need to do, you know?
Yeah. And then because once your kids are out of the house, you can't just go back and start spending time with them because they think you're weird, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys want to go to the circus? Dad, I'm 30 years old. No. So back at home, Richie tells George that he quit his job because he was going to get fired anyway. Yeah, just quit. So Dad tells him, that's fine. Okay. We'll find something else right away. And George says, let's find something good on TV. And Richie just ignores him and retreats back into his lair. And Richie has a book titled How to Talk to Girls. I guess Richie has some issues with talking to girls.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
that's why he traps them in his castle.
yeah, forgot about that. So Richie takes some kind of a pill out of his pocket, and there's a flashback, a mini flashback to Richie at Brick's house that just happened a short time ago. And he tells Brick that he doesn't want to get started in drugs again. So Richie doesn't take pills, but he does take some hits off of a joint.
A
So
doobie.
a doobie, yes. So Richie, it goes back to Richie being in his lair. So he puts the pill back in his pocket. And then we go to another scene, mom and dad at the table with Richie, and dad asks him if he is uh, going to go job hunting. And Richie tells George, "Get off my back, old man." So Carol says her organization, her nonprofit charitable organization, is holding a dance, and anybody that sells $100 worth of raffle tickets gets 2 free tickets to the dance. Richie, you can take Sheila, that girl you're interested in, but you can't talk to because you're reading a book. So Richie says, "No, no, no." But George says, "I'll help you to sell." And Richie says, "Okay, but if I don't sell $50 by noon, then let's call this off." And they all agree to that. So they go to this parking lot, and George hangs back and just watches Richie go to work. And Richie is selling these raffle tickets in this parking lot, and he needs one more sale. And this lady keeps telling him no, and he starts charming her. He's doing a Groucho Marx impersonation, and she just finally says, "All right, I'll buy the ticket." So he sold us $100, and he and his dad are really excited together. And this is the second moment in the movie where it's like, yeah, there's a connection. It's excitement. So Richie and George are excited. Richie and next scene is that Richie and Sheila, who looks just like Eve Plum from the Brady Bunch, but isn't Eve Plum.
That is one of the I don't know how to pronounce it. Eilbacher sisters. There was Cindy and is it on
Lisa.
here? I wonder.
Is it Lisa? One of them?
Might be Lisa as the other one. But yeah, they were both child actors throughout the 70s and I think into the 80s too.
Yeah, Lisa was actually in An Officer and a Gentleman.
Oh,
So
no
she
kidding.
acted into adulthood. That's where I know her from.
Good for her.
So anyway, so they're goofing around at the park, and she asks Richie what kind of high he was on, and he says, "I am all natural now." Um, and then he kisses Sheila, so he can't talk, but I'll just kiss her anyway. But anyway, he tells her he's got the tickets. He won by selling the raffles, and Sheila turns him down, and she says, "I got a date with another guy." And he goes, "Oh my gosh, you owe."
Pretty much. I'm like, oh, so this is gonna be this evil girl made me turn back to drugs.
Yes. So Richie is angry, and he goes into the basement, and he's cleaning up, and he's looking at his father's gun cabinet. And then Russell comes downstairs. We forgot that Russell was even in this movie at this point. Russell comes
Fighting
downstairs.
vampires.
Yeah. And he asks if Richie can play catch. And R Richie turns him down, and they're looking at this bird cage, and Richie tells him, "Yeah, I used to have a crow that could talk, and I didn't know crows talked. Or maybe Richie
Yeah.
was just on drugs and heard
I
it
was gonna
talk. I
say
don't
I think he was on drugs when that happened.
know." Um, so they have kind of this nice moment where they're conversing, and it never hints that Richie was bad to Russell. It never hints that he was really great to Russell, but they seem to get along okay.
Yeah.
And they have a nice discussion about animals and pets. And then the doorbell rings, and it's Brick. So Brick goes downstairs, and he lights up, and he's talking to Richie about going out, going to the to the lake, and let's get wasted. And Richie agrees to go to the lake with Brick, and then Richie goes upstairs. So Brick is in the basement with Russell, and Brick asks Russell if he wants to get high and pushes a joint on him. As Russell's about to take the joint, Richie comes back down in the basement and yells at Brick. And Richie threatens Russell, "Do not tell Dad, and do not turn into a head." And I don't know if he meant a pothead, a drug head, or if he thought maybe he would lose his body and just be a floating head. I don't know. I was I grew up in the 70s and I did not know the lingo of don't be a head. I heard pothead, I heard drug head, but I never had heard head. So
Any kind of head. He was just lumping them all together.
yeah, just don't be a head of a state or a figurehead or a headlock. Don't be any kind of head. So uh,
That reminded me of a scene very early on in Breaking Bad. I don't know if you remember this episode where Jesse goes home to his parents and his brother has a joint and Jesse just kind of crushes it and leaves, which is
I
just
don't remember
you
that.
don't remember that?
No.
Well, it was a nice moment. He's just basically like, you really don't want to go down this road like I have, you know?
Yeah. But you will get a cool car in the end. So,
True, true. So
so
many dead girlfriends.
yeah. Well, it's happened to all of us. So at the lake, Richie initially refuses to partake of any of the substances that are there. And this girl says hi to Richie. And so he's like checking her out. She goes back to be with her friends, and he sees that Sheila's with her friend group, and she's with that dude or another dude or a rando. I don't know. She's with someone else. And so Richie says, "Oh gosh, I guess I have to turn to marijuana again to
I have no
make it."
choice.
Yeah. So Richie is offered Reds, and Reds was a term that I was familiar with growing up because it was one of the most popular drugs. It's a barbiturate, and
Oh, I was gonna ask you. I've never heard of that. Reds. Never heard that.
you got time for a joke?
Sure.
Okay. Alligator walks into a bar, says, "I want a beer," and the bartender says, "No, we don't serve alligators." And he said, "You give me a beer, I'm going to eat this lady." And he said, "We don't serve alligators." So the alligator ate the lady. And then he said, "Now give me my beer." He said, "Oh, we don't serve drug heads." He said, "Drug heads? I don't take drugs." He said, "Sure you do. That was a barbiturate."
God. Ugh.
Uh, we'll bury that joke and never say it again. Uh, I have in my notes, tell the joke about barbiturates. So Richie stumbles home and his parents try to talk to him, but he screams, "Leave me alone." So Dad goes into Richie's room and finds the cool setup in the closet. And George throws Richie out of the room, and then he just trashes the secret room, which I thought, no, no, it's so cool. It's got black lights, it's got strobe lights, it's got posters. It's so awesome. So then we go back to the arcade. Richie is high, and Brick comes to get him. And Brick says, "How many reds did you take?" And he's like, "Nine. You took 9 reds? Nobody takes 9 reds." So you know it's bad if even Brick is alarmed because
Right?
Brick is like, yeah. So um, Richie vomits, but being this is a TV movie, you don't see the vomit, you just see, So George and Carol are waiting at the house for Richie. They hear the car pull up, and Carol says, "Leave him alone. It will make things work." George agrees with Carol. So then we cut to school. The principal calls George to come and get Richie. Richie has threatened the staff and tried to attack the school nurse. The parents get to school, and Richie is obviously under the influence. George aggressively shoves Richie, sorry, Ricky. So Richie is kicked out of school for his actions, and the school really never addresses, "I think your son's high." He said, "Oh, he did
Yeah.
this. He attacked the school nurse and everything." He's like, "Hey, Richie, you're not addressing this here." Um, so George and Carol take Richie home and they put him to bed. And Carol calls Betty from the drug council group, the one who got chewed out for her husband not supporting. So uh, Betty says that their whole family is now going to counseling and we're doing much better. Dominic's going, my husband's going, I'm going. It's things worked out. So uh, Carol asked George if we can talk, and George can't talk right now because he is going to the gun club. Yeah, I because this looks like something that could involve feelings, and I don't do feelings.
I
It's
shoot things.
1977. No one will do feelings for another 15 years. So Carol says something has got to get done to help Richie. She wants George to go to counseling with him, but George isn't into that shit. I just wanted him to say that. I'm not into that shit. But it's a TV movie and it wasn't going to happen. So George tells Richie that the family's only problem is that he is more interested in getting that Richie is the family's only problem, and that George is more interested in getting him back in school than going to counseling. So we're back at school. The principal is talking to Richie about his grades and performance, and Richie says he wants to go to college and learn electronics. So the principal reinstates him back into school. So the next scene, Richie's doing some homework. It's Halloween. It's kind of a cool scene, and Richie's really into Halloween. He comes out, he's giving out candy, and he's kind of having a good time with it. And then out of the clear blue sky, he snaps that Halloween is garbage. These kids are eating garbage, and then he goes out to Carol's objection. I'm leaving. Did you find that weird? It,
Very weird. I wrote specifically, what did I do here? Hold on. Um, yeah, what is it about the trick-or-treaters that set him off? I don't understand. He was perfectly happy, and then all of a sudden, I'm out of here. What happened?
yeah. So I thinking Richie is dealing with not just drugs, but and low self esteem, but maybe a little bit of I don't know schizophrenia or something.
That's
Um,
very possible.
so Dad tells him that if he goes out, not to come back, the door will be locked. So Richie comes home late that night. He's banging on the door to come in. George gets up. Richie stumbles and stone at Richie. Um, and he lashes out that his parents hate him, which is pretty accurate right now. They're getting to the point where they hate him. And Richie claims that he was a mistake. So George does what every 70s dad does. He finally strikes his son. And the problem is that Russell sees this and Russell gets very upset. So dad sends him back to bed. Not going to comfort you. That would involve feelings and emotion. Get back to bed. This is just what families do. So once again, Carol tells George that they need to get some counseling help.
It's like
So,
her only line over and over again.
yeah, here, she's been nominated for an Academy Award, and her only line is, we need to go to counseling. We need to go to counseling. You got that one down? I think I do. Okay, that's your line. So, um, George, instead of going to counseling, has a better idea. He bugs Richie's phone. Well,
Well,
he bugs.
don't talk to me about that drug counseling. We're way past that. Well,
Yeah,
you wouldn't be if you'd have gone at the beginning of the movie.
yeah. So, so they're past counseling, and the next step past counseling is phone bugging, by the way. Everybody knows
Sure.
that. So
Yeah, of
he's
course.
bugging the phone, and Carol argues, well, is this going to help? And George wants to see how much he is in cahoots with his friends, and he thinks Richie is also dealing, not just using. So George listens into the phone conversations, and he does find out that they are doing some dealing. So George has Richie and his friends, Brick included, at the house, and the friends start yakking at George. Well, what kind of a dad bugs the phone?
Who did you see in that scene as one of the friends?
Huh?
Who did you see in that scene playing one of the friends?
I don't know.
Clint Howard.
Oh my gosh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, I recognize that face. It's a very distinct face.
Yeah, Ron kind of got the looks.
Yeah, yeah.
and, and Clint didn't go visit the dentist. So,
They're like, we can only afford to send one of you to the dentist, and Ron's bringing in more money.
There you go. Go play with Gentle Ben. Go, 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 go.
But yeah,
So
he's got like a couple of lines, but I'm like, holy crap, what are you doing here? It was just wild to me.
weird. So anyway, George tells him that he threatens to call the police, but he says, "I'm not going to call the police. But what I will do is I'll share this with your parents." And one of his friends screams, "Why are you doing this to me?" Was that Ron? Was that Clint who said that?
It might have been, I don't remember.
And George says, "To save my son." So George now says he won't call their parents, but they have to cut ties with Richie. You think that's going to happen? No,
Oh,
teenagers love to rebel. That's what they do. They rebel. So Richie tells his friends that as they are leaving, my old man ain't making trouble for nobody but himself. And you've said that about me a lot of times.
oh yeah.
So now we're back at the table. George, Carol, and Russell, and Richie comes in stoned. George blocks his way into his room. Richie threatens to cut George with his razor. Carol cries to tell Richie to please go away if he hates them that much. So Carol has finally been pushed to he's beyond help.
I mean, frankly, I agree with her. I wrote down, just kick him out. I don't know what else. I wouldn't know what else to do at that point. If he thinks that what he does is none of his parents' business, then fine. Go support yourself. Live on your own. You get no help from us. You get no shelter, no food, no money. If that's
Yeah,
what you want, do it.
yeah, and I'm so fortunate. Five kids, none. I This was my whole parenting philosophy. If my kids reach adulthood, they do not have a substance abuse problem. They are not a teenage parent. They are prepared for college or work or whatever they're going to do after that, and they're making sound decisions. They, you're going to make some bad decisions. Everybody makes bad decisions, but if they're making sound decisions based upon their dreams and their logic, I feel like I that's all you can ask for. And I'm so fortunate that I didn't have anybody wind up with a substance abuse problem because I've had friends who've had kids who wound up that way, and I, it's terrible. And you're a parent now. It's not easy. You have to have a balance somewhere between tough love and yet being available emotionally for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't know what I would do if I had to. And trust me, I went through these scenarios all the time, probably before I had kids, but certainly after I had kids, like, gosh, what am I going to do if this happens? What am I going to do if this happens? And I don't think George, who was, probably went to the Korean War, based upon the age of everything, when he's talking about the war, went to the Marines. I don't think George and Carol were from a generation where kids had that kind of a substance abuse problems. Kids would drink, of course,
Yeah.
but by the time they have teenagers, you're in a whole new era. You've had the 60s go by and you're in the 70s, and drugs are so readily available. And it used to be more kids were taking speed, more kids were taking uppers and downers. Pills were still pretty prevalent when I went to school in the early 80s, acid and stuff like that. Now it's mostly marijuana. Then you have, the fentanyl stuff and meth. That's the hard stuff.
Mm.
But the pills that used to be prevalent in the 70s aren't really so much of a problem anymore. But they certainly did not grow up in a world where that was an issue, and I don't think that they knew how to confront it. They probably never even thought about it.
Yeah, I mean it's not quite the same thing, but when I was just exiting high school is when social media really started to take off. And it's so different for kids these days. And I worry about my kid getting older. I'm like, man, what do I do about the social media stuff? Because that could, it can be harmless and fun. It can go down some really, really dark paths, you know? And it's like you don't want to, it's like you said, there's a balance. You want them to have their freedom, but you also have to acknowledge they're kids. They still need guidance.
Yeah, Yeah,
So
it,
it's
it
it's tough.
it is tough. Nobody said parenting was easy.
I guess not.
Grandparenting's simple. Entertain them, feed them, and send them back. It's great. It's great. So now we're back in court, and George makes his case to the judge to have Richie retained. And George has asked for an order of protection based upon Richie threatening with him with a razor. And the judge asked Richie about the threat. Richie said, "I didn't really have a razor. I just said, you know." And the judge again calls for family counseling. So we go to family counseling in the next scene, and uh, so Carol is waiting in the waiting room, and I guess Richie and George are in the family counseling. And after 5 minutes, George leaves the counseling, and Richie comes out. Carol is called into the counselor, leaving George and Richie in the common area together. And the counselor schedules a meeting for all three of them the next day. And so Carol comes out and says that George refuses to go. So Richie says, well, if he's not going, I'm not going. So family counseling falls apart after 5 minutes. And Carol is distraught. Um,
This, I think, puts it fully on George because Richie would have gone if George had gone. He refused.
I
And
thought the
I
same
felt
thing.
so sorry for Carol in that moment.
Yeah, this was your shot. If
Hmm.
you had him where you wanted him with a counselor with professional help, if George would have just swallowed that ego a little bit and said, "Yeah, we need to do this family counseling thing." So George is listening to another one of the phone conversations that Richie's having with a girl, and she is wanting Richie to go to a party, and she asks Richie, do you feel wanted? And he has the very strange response. He says, I've never even heard of the word, meaning wanted, meaning no, I don't feel wanted at all. And George starts crying. So George does have emotion, but George actually didn't know that the camera was rolling at that time. Oh man, you caught me crying.
But is he going to do anything with this information? No,
No, no, no, no,
no,
no,
of
no, no.
course not. He's just going to cry about it. And.
So it really comes to a head. They're having a family Christmas party, and the grandparents are there. And Carol's dad asks where Richie is, and he'll be here soon. And Carol's father says, uh, these are so misogynistic, uh, that he's proud of his daughter because uh, what a good man tells Carol what to do, when a good man tells Carol what to do, she does it. Okay.
Thanks,
So,
Dad.
yeah, my little obedient daughter. So, um, and then another relative says, why didn't I train my wife like that? My goodness. So Carol's mom asks if she is okay. And she tells her mom that Richie's in his room and he's listening to rock music.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the downfall. So, being raised Baptist in the 70s and 80s, I heard so many sermons on rock music. I loved rock music.
I know you did.
Rock music. So Carol goes into Richie's room and tells him to get out and say hello to the family. Richie is stoned and he's got a joint, so we're kind of down that path. Like, yeah, I'm going to do it here. I don't care. He says he just can't go out there and say hello. He just can't do it, which to me is not a drug problem. It's that mental thing. It's that anxiety he has, low
Yeah.
self-esteem. So Carol kind of cries. And then the next scene, George pulls up to home and he hears loud music coming
Hold
from
on, hold
Richie.
on, hold on. The Christmas scene really reminded me of not as much my mom, some of it, but you specifically, because you had this one line, you need to come down and be social. You would say that to me all the time when relatives were over. Except I was never high, just very, very drunk. But you would say that to me all the time.
um, so anyway, after my bad parenting,
I did not say you were a bad parent. That's not what I was implying at all.
so he hears music coming from Richie's room. So George leaves, and inside we see Richie and some friends listening to music. It's very innocent. And then George comes back with the po-po, and Richie is home because he says, I'm home because I was suspended. So George kicks his friends out and has the cops search Richie's room, and they find nothing in there. No drugs, nothing. George, oh, okay. So Richie confronts George and threatens him. George slugs him and tells Richie, come on, punk. Come on, punk. Every dad's been in that situation. It's time to hit the kid and say, come on, punk.
I remember the first time you hit me and said, "Come on, punk."
Yeah, well, and at 3 years old, I knew I could take you. So, um, so George actually takes his jacket off to fight, and Richie grabs a knife, and they scuffle. And George says, "You're not my son." So George asks Richie, they calm down to sit down and talk. And George says, I've tried everything. And now Carol is on the phone with Carol's on the phone with Richie in the next scene while she is at Betty's house. And Richie has a breakdown to complain that George is going crazy and he's going crazy and George tried to kill him and or wait a minute, that he tried to kill George.
Mm-hmm.
So
In Richie's defense, George should not have been in the West Wing.
that's right. That's right. So the next scene, Richie is at a desk and he's answering mental health questions. And he has an inner monologue that he's really just beating himself up. So this kind of gets into the mental aspect of his problems. So Carol is talking to the doctor, and the doctor mentions something, we may have a, sociopath that is exacerbated by drug abuse, maybe some schizophrenia, and said you should have brought him in a few years ago, which is a terrible thing to say to the parents now.
Right, I love that. I wrote that. I'm like, wow, I love the psychiatrist blaming mom here.
Yeah. So the next scene, Richie has ran his car into a pole, and George shows up where there is a cop at the scene, and George asks him, "What now?" Asks Richie, "What's now?" And he asks Richie, "What's going on?" Richie just yells at George, and Richie goes to his room and he's taking pills, and he leaves the room stoned and confronts his dad, and Carol tries to interfere, and they go to the basement. Richie starts wielding a knife, and George grabs his gun and he slaps the knife away from Richie. So Richie runs right back upstairs to the kitchen and gets another knife because every house has a lot of knives. And he comes back downstairs and he's screaming at his dad, shoot me, come on, shoot me. And he's screaming over and over. So George pops a cap in his ass.
Indeed. And just before the last pedal fell, too.
Yeah, shoots Richie and kills him. So then the final scene, we're at the funeral, and Sheila is reading a statement, and George starts weeping, and we find out with the what's that epilogue? Is that called the epilogue? And they have words at the end.
No, well, I guess you could call it that, but yeah, whatever. The what happened later
Yeah,
words, text.
we find out that the father George was not charged with murder, and he was let off. And I guess the book would probably go into this, self defense, that he had a knife, I had a gun, guns win. So, so that is our movie, The Death of Richie. The first real drama that we've kind of looked at here that wasn't like suspense horror or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just kids. So, what are your thoughts on the book?
Well, well, I didn't read the book,
Well, yeah,
but hold on. Right, I have this article. It was a review of the book from the time. This is from July 15th, 1973. So this is pretty, I think, more damning toward the father than the movie, and I assume the book. Um, you see, blah 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 blah. The book. Thomas Thompson originally wrote an article about it in Life magazine. Um, made the book off of that. Okay, here. What made the murder especially interesting was that the father, George Diner, that was their real last name, freely admitted committing it and yet expressed no remorse over what he had done. Apparently, he believed that death was the only solution to his young son's problem. Richie was a heavy user of drugs, particularly barbiturates. He wore his hair long, was defiant of authority in his attitude and behavior, all of which drove his father, a political conservative, up the wall. George Diner pins the ultimate blame for the murder not on himself, but on the permissiveness in the country, the drugs, the commies, and the liberals, and those outside his smug suburban town who led his child astray. Even in death, Mr. Diner could not reconcile himself to his son's ways. He ordered his son's hair cut short, his beard and sideburns shaved, and he dressed the boy in a suit he had refused to wear in life. At the funeral, George Diner told his late son's hippie friends that he hoped the killing taught them a good lesson. What is the lesson? One of the youths replied. Be good or your father will shoot you. What is the lesson? Even after reading Thompson's book about Richie and his family, I do not know why the boy was slain by his father, nor why he took drugs, nor why his father's conservative political enmity towards blacks and welfare chiselers and hippies and radicals and fairies was taken out against his son. Thompson struggles to tell us, but the lesson isn't clear.
Wow, the first MAGA right there.
It just kind of puts it in a slightly different light.
Yeah, because the movie does soften Dad up quite a bit,
Yes,
and I guess Dad had a little bit of say in the movie or something. I don't know because
probably. At least the book, I would assume the book.
yeah. So um, I really like the performance by Robby Benson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he he was a great actor, and he's still around. Just more of a director now for the last 30 years. But what made him a really good child actor was his range. And this movie just displays it. Um, the the anger, all the way to the scenes where he has euphoria, like when he's he sells the raffle tickets, and when he's with Sheila before she brutally turns him down. He can play all these emotions and play them effectively. And I think Ben Gazzara was really good. And I mean, judging by what you read, it's not a tremendously accurate portrayal of him, but Ben Gazzara did a really good job of trying to teeter between I need to be helpful to my son, but I also need to be stern with my son.
Yeah, he played it. I think he stays sympathetic because he genuinely wants to help. He's just not equipped to do so.
Yeah, he's not equipped to do so, and he's his own worst enemy. Um,
Absolutely.
when you make mistakes in life, at least when I make mistakes in life, I didn't learn this until I was in my late 30s. Instead of blaming other people, when you blame other people or other things, that's a cop out. You cannot improve yourself if you say, well, this happened to me and it's all their fault. But when you even if it's someone else's fault, when you say, what did I do? And you take all the responsibility, like I really screwed this up. Um, I'm not blaming it on anyone else. What should I have done different? And that's how you grow. And that's one of the things that counseling could have helped
Yeah.
is them to see that they all have fed into this in one way or another, and they can't fix each other, but they can fix themselves. And as they fix themselves, hopefully they can come together as a family.
Hmm.
And that would be the strategy you try to do with family counseling. But being George just won't do it uh,
Yeah.
because it's probably a commie thing. I don't know. Um, Ridiculous. But we do know that George, the real life father, passed away uh, kind of early in life. I don't even think he was 60 when he passed away. So he kind of
Mm.
passed away early in life. But so do you think your dad saw this on TV the first time it was aired? Do you think he saw it on a repeat, or do you think he's never seen it until this week?
Well, 1977, you would have been a little bit older, so I'm going to say you saw it first run.
I did because my sisters wanted to watch the Robby Benson movie on TV. So I watched it. And I remember even then, when he went to his little secret room, that wow, I want one of those. Not to do drugs or anything. I just wanted one. It looks so
No,
cool.
that's fair. It's a cool room.
So and I a couple scenes that stick out that I did remember. I remembered for some reason the scene where he's in the arcade and he's counting the number of reds he took on his finger. For some reason, I still remember that. Like, yeah, like it just happened yesterday. And I watched this with my sisters, and I don't remember which one. When the movie was over, kind of somber and everything, and one of my sisters said, his last request, shoot me. Oh, that's dark and cold. Funny. So do you
Well,
do you give this a classic or a trash it?
it doesn't deserve a trash it. I'll give it a mild classic.
Well, I'll give it a classic. I think it's a good movie. It is encapsulated in time. Some of the stuff that you would see if you didn't grow up in that era, you may not understand, like the term reds and
Hmm.
prevalent pills were probably more common than marijuana at the time because they were easier to get. There there wasn't a whole lot of restrictions on pharmaceutical drugs, and that's a fairly recent phenomena. So I remember my friends who started taking drugs, they all started with robin eggs. I don't even know what a robin egg is, but that's how they all started. Some drugs they called a robin egg because it was blue.
I did want to ask, do you think it was justified? Because I'm just not sure he had to do that.
I don't think it's okay. If you actually think your life's in danger because your teenage son has got a knife at you, and he did disarm his son, and then went up and got another knife, um, I I don't know if it's justified or not, but I don't think it should have ever got to that point. He should have been either expelled from the house or they should have done the family counseling thing when they had their opportunity.
Yeah, I was thinking when he went back upstairs, I'm like, why don't you shut and lock the door? Wait for him to
That,
pass out or whatever, you know?
that would have been, yeah, that would have been logical. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but wasn't
Hey,
there.
hey, what are we gonna watch next week?
Well, since you picked a drama, I felt like I should pick a drama too. So we are going to watch another pretty sad movie called Foster and Lori, and you can find it on YouTube.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode. I know it's been a little bit longer, about 10 minutes longer, but y'all did great hanging in here. All five of you. So that's awesome. So
We love all five of you. Thank you.
we'll be back next week with Foster and Laura.
Laurie.
Laurie. Okay. So thank you. Bye bye.